everybody. So it's go time. Clearly, Dawson is in the middle of decorating for Christmas, but also it's go time for Asha. And this episode was purposefully timed because I had the pleasure of interviewing Jordyn and Chelsie. They're the founders of Black SLP Magic. And on Saturday at Asha, they're actually hosting a conference. And Saturday night, they're having like a huge big get together. So, please tune into the episode, buy tickets, enjoy yourself at Asha, enjoy yourself at their conference and their Saturday night party. And yeah, also, I have some exciting news. I don't know, it's a little bittersweet. So, Erin, who has co-hosted this with me from the beginning, has made the decision to open her own private practice. She's doing amazing things down in Charleston. So if you need a DIR expert level therapist to help the little ones on your caseloads, or if you need to consult with a DIR expert level clinician, Erin is it. But in the crux of doing all of that, she's actually stepping back from the podcast so that she can focus on the next stage of her career. It takes courage to do something new. It takes courage to embrace a change. And that's what she did. So from all of us here at First Bite, y'all, there's so many people to help out behind the scenes. We have a sweet young lady named Mindy that does the editing. Chad, Darla, Yumi, Sumi, Wendy, who helps like with a billion contracts of a half. Debbie and her precious sister. Like, there's a ton of people that pull First Bite and all of the podcasts and everything that Speech Therapy PD does together and makes it look good. But Erin, on behalf of the entire team, and a cutified goose and bear, because obviously I'm going to Asha, so obviously everybody gets sick. Thank you with a full heart for everything you've done to help make First Bite what it is. And honey, I am really freaking proud of you. So go thrive in your private practice. Help all of the babies and their caregivers. And I can't wait to see what you do next. So cheers to Erin, to Throat Coat Tea, and to Black SLP Magic. I hope y'all enjoy the episode. And Erin, congratulations on this next step, hon. All right, folks, we are absolutely in for a treat, and I am so excited because our guests today are hosting a very large event in approximately a week, and there's plenty of time to sign up, so don't start fretting over that. So if you are coming to Asha in DC, I am honored to host the founder and co-founder of Black Magic SLP, and I have Miss Chelsie Esek-Onyeahialam. Did I get it?
Yes, we'll take it.
Oh, no, correct me. Please introduce yourself.
Chelsie Esek-Onyeahialam. So you were close.
Oh, I tried so hard and I even wrote it what I thought was, I am so sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
Okay.
And Jordyn Montique, like antique.
Yes, that's correct. Exactly.
Yes. Well, Chelsie, Jordyn, thank y'all so much for coming on. Y'all, we had this sucker pegged down to record, and then I started a new job, which is amazing. So we had to pivot, and that's after all of the other things that have happened. But we made it, and y'all are in the middle of planning this amazing conference. So hi. Thank y'all for squeezing me into your very, very busy schedules between patients and a PhD program and all of the above. But please introduce yourself for the folks. So I don't know who wants to go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Chelsie. Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for having us. We're so grateful for the opportunity, and we just love a platform to just say our wants and needs and say our voice and speak. So my name's Chelsie Esek-Onyeahialam. I am a medical speech language pathologist currently practicing in Dallas, Texas. Primarily populations I serve is adult and geriatric population in acute care settings. So I work primarily in hospitals. And also, I am in doctoral school to get my doctorates in health administration to be on the corporate side of my mission, which brings me to my love, my passion project, which is hashtag Black SLP Magic Conference. And so we'll get into what that is. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here and good to see you guys.
Great. Thank you. Again, thank you for having us both. We're very excited to be here. I'm Jordyn Montique. I am also a speech language pathologist. I am pediatric. And just in this summer, I started my private practice, which has been growing and has been great. And I also now have multiple school contracts that are keeping me very busy. So that's been wonderful. I wanted to be, I think we're supposed to talk about this. I wanted to become an SLP because actually both of my parents are educators, and my mom taught special education for 30 plus years, recently transitioned, is now a school counselor. But I grew up in her classroom, and I remember seeing the SLP come to in her room and go to the little, round table, and all the kids run up to her, and she had her bag full of toys, and she left after like 30 minutes. And I was like, wow, like what a job. Like she just got to come in here and play and then leave. So it was great. And probably saw that at like 9 years old and knew that's what I wanted to do. So I've always wanted to work with kids and work in the school system. And I've also just always been passionate about multiculturalism, diversity, inclusion, acceptance. So, one of the quotes I live by is be the person you needed when you were younger. And for me, even with that SLP, I saw that, I wanted to become. I never saw a Black SLP before I went to an HBCU, which is a historically Black college or university. And so I knew that I wanted to become the representation that I needed. And that pretty much informs everything that I do to this day.
That's amazing. Congratulations on your private practice. That's a whew.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. That's a child in and of itself.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, my littlest brother needed a speech therapist. He was born with a cleft lip, but my parents married after he was older, but he didn't talk till he was 4. And he saw Ms. Safransky. She was his speech therapist. That's the worst name in the world for a speech therapist. But she was, Miss Safransky, was a ballet mom at the little studio. I was the world's worst ballerina. I broke my same toe 3 times, like no rhythm whatsoever. Yeah, it was a feat. But I'll never forget, within a matter of a couple of sessions, she had him saying his name. And that I was 12, and that was the first time I heard. He was like 4.5, and he was like, "My name Efi," because he still couldn't say Ethan, but that was that was it. And I was like, "This woman is like a wizard," because it. But that it hooked. Chelsie, how did you find out about the profession?
Yeah, I forgot to answer that question, didn't I? So basically, my parents back in Houston, originally I'm from, previously they owned, before they sold it, a home health company. So I used to help out in my parents' office all the time with clerical work. So I would see like PT, OT, ST, and I was like, what is that, right? And so one day my mom was like, you should just look up what speech therapist is. And so I was researching, and I was like, oh, okay, I know I don't want to be a nurse. I know my sister's a physical therapist. My other sister's a nurse. Both of my parents are nurses. My dad's an engineer and a nurse. So I was like, okay, it's so many disciplines. Where can I fit what I want to do, right? And so started looking into speech therapy and kind of wanted to do that. But at the time, speaking of ballet, I was also a dancer. So I double majored in speech language pathology and in dance at the University of North Texas. Thinking at the time I was going to combine both of them, which, funny story, Jordyn and I were roommates in graduate school. So I kind of combined them where I would like do things on the side during grad school. Like I was a bar instructor, and I would try to lead like a patient and family dance and movement group. But long story
Awesome.
short, yes, that's how I fell into speech pathology.
I, yeah. Again, I was a really terrible ballerina, so I made it as far as high school. I was like, I would love to go to college and be like an actual dancer. And my dad was like, oh, baby.
Right,
Yeah, like let that dream go.
right.
We
Yeah.
love realistic parents.
Oh yes, the world needs them. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
so y'all met in graduate school then.
Oh yeah, we were grad school besties. We were, I mean, still are obviously, but we were locked in very early on.
Yes. Yes. No, where did y'all go to grad school together?
Howard University, the
Okay,
number one HBCU. We graduate the most Black speech language pathologists in the country.
Hey, you.
fantastic. Okay, folks, if you've never been to MBASLA, the National Black Association for Speech, Language, and Hearing, one of my favorite things is watching everybody come in their sweatshirts and all of the cheering that happens because
Yeah.
it's people are excited to see each other and to see like your school's spirit day. It's just
Yeah, we're
I've
full
been
of
to
pride.
Oh yeah.
yes, I've been to a lot of conferences. They're not always cheerful.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yes. Okay, let me behave myself. Okay, so when y'all graduated and you went out into the world, I know folks, y'all know the behind the scenes. Everybody sends me questions. And what was amazing was that the questions that came around today, your separate questions overlapped in the most beautiful ways. And one of them, a theme I saw was mentorship. And mentorship is so key. I mean, opening doors and yeah, just like creating the foundation for the next step. So, who wants to take us through mentorship and how that became um, the entity that we're talking about today?
Jordyn, go. You can go ahead.
Me? Okay. Thought you were ready.
I'm loving the eyebrow. Okay, folks, we're like behind the scenes. It's the eyebrows.
Right.
Yes.
It's a lot of facial movements going on. But yeah, so for me, just like kind of going back to my previous answer, like I had never saw a Black speech pathologist before I got to Howard. So another one of my quotes is, "You can't be what you can't see." And so yeah, so that's a really big deal. And when it comes to representation, it's just like it's hard for us to know that something can be a reality for us if we're not exposed to it. So exposure just continues to lead to expansion, which is why I started my social media platform, just so people could see like who I am and that I'm 100% myself as a young Black woman, and like bringing my full self to the table, and not feeling like I have to change any of my identities because previously I had felt that way. And so for me, I took on mentorship from like a large scale, of like, okay, let me just show up and show people that it's okay to be yourself. Let me like make myself available for people to ask questions and respond to, and just like being a general mentor through social media, which has been such a blessing. And I know that I've been able to touch.
Tell us your handle. It's at
Oh,
JRC. Go ahead. Sorry.
JRC underscore the SLP, JRC the SLP. So that is like basically how everything took off for me. And like, I just want to provide a platform for people where they know they feel safe, seen, and supported, which is like a foreshadowing for what our events, became. So I took it on that level. And then basically with Black SLP Magic Conference, um, Chelsie had done the same thing on her page where she was sharing all these different Black speech pathologists or students, and just like highlighting them again because we want us to be like seen and amplified, because us coming up, we didn't see that at all. So that, like you said, once we graduated, that pretty much became a really big deal for us to be able to showcase what we didn't get to see before. And then, so she created the conference, the Black SLP Magic, and we were able to bring such a large group of people together that had previously we just seen on social media. And from there, that's when so many people met in person and grew these mentorship relationships, or even just built friendships. We've had people like come together and like have business ideas that are successful to this day, and they met at this conference.
Amazing. Yes.
So it's just like, for me, as I've gotten older and, you know, grown into the field, I've realized how much of like an importance mentorship is and what it can do for people.
Yes. Speaking a name into a room, especially when they're not there. There's mentorship, and that next level is sponsorship. And that's, yes. Chelsie?
Yeah. So, all the things that Jordyn said, for definitely for sure, is also kind of my story as well. But it kind of started for me in academia, attending a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution here in Texas. Right, I attended University of North Texas in Denton, and it was only three African American girls in most of our classes, which was me and two others. And I did not feel supported in my coursework. I did not feel that I could relate or kind of find connection or opportunity for that sponsorship to the next level during, applying for graduate school. It wasn't until I actually met the dean of the college at that time at UNT, and he was a Howard alumni, and he told me, "Hey, I want you to apply to Howard. I will personally write a letter of recommendation for you because I was previously on the board for admissions. I know the committee. I definitely want to lock you in and get you connected." And so if it wasn't for that representation, a male who was an African American male who saw me in a struggle, to pull me out and to say, "Hey, I have this opportunity for you," I don't know where I would be today, honestly. So that professor opened those doors for me at Howard. And at Howard, there was a plethora of women and men who look like us, and who foster that opportunity for growth in a way that puts you in places that, if you were at a PWI, you wouldn't have that opportunity, right? Even just getting into school, I think I applied to 5 and I only got into 2. And the 2 that I did get into were both HBCUs. So it just kind of sets up.
Same. I did
Yeah.
not know we had that same story. I applied to 8, and only 2, well, 2.5 I got into, but
Oh,
2 were HBCUs.
never knew that either, Jay. And
Yeah.
we were blessed. Yeah. So I think I was waitlisted for 1, and then the other 2 were HBCU. So even in that process, the merit system with, just getting into graduate school is so biased. So having that leverage of someone who believes in more than the paperwork, but they believe in my story, they believe in what I can offer as far as a clinician goes, has opened so many doors. And to foreshadow, to talk about the conference, actually all of our mentors, those professors who helped us in graduate school, were all speakers and panelists at our first ever conference. So that's how those connectivity, that family feel, it's not just to get you to where you need to be. It's lifelong. It's a community, and it makes you feel linked in, no pun intended, to the field of speech therapy, not just on a surface level.
Okay, but this wearing faculty hat, because I have taught adjunct at universities, I have been clinic director at universities, at HBCUs, teaching adjunct at PWIs, being clinic director. I can tell you the conversations are different in the rooms. I have witnessed firsthand dismissive commentary about students, which the first time out the gate, I didn't know what to say or to do. It was like, wait, what just happened? And it happened so quick. And I will acknowledge, I have social anxiety and I've got some quirks, right? But I don't always pick up the social cues right out correctly. So I have to wait a second and then reassess to make sure that what I'm seeing is actually happening in those moments. But there's been plenty of times where I'm like, this is not okay. And I'll speak it and stand up for it. And I owe that courage and that bravery to Dr. Frances Burns and Dr. Michelle Norman down at Francis Marion University, because those women sat me down. And when I was their clinic director, and Dr. Norman, who used to be my professor, so scared the bejesus out of me to work with her, but to have, because I was, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. She was like, we are colleagues now. And I was like, but the way she opened my eyes to what BIPOC students had to go through that I had no knowledge of, my lived experiences were so different. And I needed that mentorship, but it's not a one and done. It is a pursuit of. So to be frank, folks, if you are listening and you have an opportunity to serve as a clinical supervisors, then my God, open your heart and open your doors. Specifically, like, let's systematically open more doors for our future BIPOC colleagues, and partner with HBCUs, partner with individuals that are bilingual, trilingual, and let's be intentional. Sorry, we taught our dog how to use the AAC button. So she's over there telling me, let me outside in the background.
That's cute.
I mean, you might
That's
be a
adorable.
pediatric therapist when your dog knows AAC, but yeah, Jordyn, if you have a dog, may I recommend low tech buttons? Also,
No,
we want
absolutely.
to talk about, like, there's the pink tax, but the disability tax, the same buttons for my dog, $19. If I were to buy those for my patients, add another one on it, or another zero, whatever the correct analogy is. Only that gets me mad. Okay, so bottom line, we have to facilitate the opportunities. Like, this has to be intentional. But tell us about your mentorship. What does that look like in the program? Is it just for the one night, or is it throughout the year? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'll quickly touch on like just microaggressions in the workplace and the
Yes,
academic setting,
please.
all those things. And so that happens day to day for us. Just, the color of the skin, the way we look. Of course, there's a blatant difference, right? But I think the biggest thing is bringing awareness and having a conversation, right? So I think most times, you know, people who are not of color kind of like to avoid the conversation, or not say anything, or not talk about, or not even come to conferences like this, or not even say the term black, all these other things. But for us as a woman of color, it's even more important for us to, hey, sit down and how do you feel about this? Did I answer this question right? How did, including me in the process, right? Just not avoiding anything, or talking about anything. So that's just the first thing about microaggressions, and relating it to just mentorship and how the conference and the social scene work. So the conference is a 1 day conference, where we bring different panel discussions and we discuss all topics, right? Speech pathology and non-speech pathology related. The way mentorship kind of works is it kind of builds, it feeds on its own system. When we're sitting in the space, there are 30-minute sessions we are all together. So it's auditorium style. It's not breakout sessions. So in that time, we allow for the audience to ask vulnerable questions so the speakers can respond in an authentic way, not sugar coated. And afterwards, we allow for time for the social scene, for them to kind of talk with people, network, build those opportunities to connect outside of the conference as well. So mentorship is just not a one-time thing for us. The social media page also brings that, what would you say, like Jordyn, like the social aspect as far as social media goes, because in modern day we're millennials, that's kind of how we connect. So that's how our conference is a little bit different than others. We add that social media aspect to where, hey, you can send me a DM if you do need anything, or hey, if you need something, I can connect you to the conference who did this, or to the person who spoke at this conference. And I just kind of love to see previous attendees are connecting outside of the conference because they met there. So that's kind of how the mentorship program works within the conference and the after party. It's not just a one-time thing. We want to establish longevity within the connections.
Yeah. just to add on that, that was great because I have so many points from what you just discussed. The first one, I do a lot of like consulting with different programs or different private practices about becoming more culturally responsive. And one topic, go ahead.
You were going to say, you said with different programs. What do you mean programs that you consult with?
So different like organizations, like I work with like autism organizations or like parent facing programs that work with parents of children who are disabled, things like that. But I also, most of my work has been with private practices to make sure that their practice is culturally responsive, or even just individual clinicians. But one thing that I talk about often is white supremacy culture. And I know that's like a scary term. But white
Everywhere.
supremacy, exactly. White supremacy culture is basically just the norms of the society that we live in because we live in a white dominant society. And two of the things that Chelsie just talked about, there's a lot of different characteristics of white supremacy culture, but one of those is the right to comfort. And that is avoidance of any topics that might cause harm, that might bring fear, that might make you feel guilty, that might make you feel uncomfortable. Again, that is a characteristic of white supremacy culture is I have the right to be comfortable. I don't care how you feel. I'm uncomfortable talking about this, or I'm uncomfortable being the minority in the room, so I'm not going to attend this conference, or I'm uncomfortable talking about race because it's not an issue with me, so I don't need to discuss it. So that is something that comes up very often.
Dr. Burns told me sit in the uncomfortable.
Yep.
Because when I
Absolutely.
worked for her, it was 2020, 2021. Uh, everything was coming to an head. Everything was changing. And she was like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. But it you 1000% agree with everything you just said. And it was terrifying. Honest to God, to this day, saying your name's wrong terrifies me because I don't want to be disrespectful and hurt a body's heart. But I mean, yes, this is
Yeah. No, it's so true. One of my other favorite quotes is there is no growth in comfort. There's no, like, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not going to grow in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't even have to be related to race. Like, going to grad school is uncomfortable. Like, getting a bad grade on a test is uncomfortable. Like, all these things that happen to us in life are uncomfortable, but you have to go through them to grow. So something to keep in mind is, like you just said, sit with that discomfort. The other one, that another characteristic that just came to mind for me is white supremacy culture is transactional, whereas Black culture or other like cultures who are like predominantly people of color, their relationships are relational. So instead of transactional, like I do this for you, you do this for me, like it's a one-time thing. We shook hands, we made a deal, and that's it. Our conference and the event afterwards, the SLP social scene, it's all based on relationships. So it's so communal. It's very familial. It feels like you're going to church. Like there's always time to discuss, like talk to the person next to you. You know, what do you think about what you just said in the panel? And like you get to discuss those important topics with the expert on the panel immediately. Like you don't have to wait to send an email after the conference. Like it's all you're building relationships from the beginning of the day until midnight. Like you're building relationships the entire time.
I
So
guarantee I would not be somewhere in public at midnight. My old self is done at 9 o'clock. Like, put a fork in it. I want a cup of tea in my bed. But I love
yeah,
that people go out at midnight still.
they sure do. They sure do. It ends at midnight. You know, that's the ending. But people are there. You know, there's a break in between, but there's basically relationships building from morning to night, literally the entire time. And those are the type of relationships that you keep. Like you maintain those relationships. And so that's what we've seen year after year. It's just like so many people come up to us and tell us like, oh, we met at Social Scene. Oh my gosh, we met at the Black Hills Supreme Magic Conference and we started a business together and we're starting a private practice together. And like, it happens every year. Like, it's crazy. And it obviously makes us extremely proud to have created
Right.
that space.
Right.
This is your 8th year?
Fifth.
Yeah.
5th? well, I just put it into the universe. We've definitely got more to do, but
Yeah, absolutely,
here.
absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that's the um how do I learn more about white supremacy culture? Because what you're talking about, I am learning more in this conversation, and it's building on something my husband brought up this past week about vertical Christianity versus horizontal Christianity. And vertical Christianity is very patriarchal. You don't ask questions. It's you do as you are told. My family, in full disclosure, I know I said this to y'all earlier, but because of the current state of the affairs of the world, I am not speaking to some of my family. And as my husband explained, it's very vertical faith versus um, the church doctrine that we follow with the Episcopalian Church. It's very horizontal. It's you serve your community. It's
Right.
relationship building. It's not this one person says and then you do. I grew up in the one person says and you do, and our hearts have led us elsewhere. So, but
Yeah.
do you have like a favorite? I think we need to contract with you.
Please, yeah, we can discuss later for sure. But yes, so there you can just Google white supremacy culture, and the name is going to fail me, but I'll send it to you so you can put it in the show notes. But the author has an entire website dedicated to it where they list all of the characteristics and explain them one by one in depth. So I will share that and it'll be in the show notes so everybody can check that out. Also, I very much relate. Before my dad was an educator, he was a pastor. So I grew up in the church and I saw him. And I feel like, our church is very much horizontal Christianity. However, in Christianity, I think there is still a lot of misogyny and a lot of, like you said, what I say goes, following the one person. And I saw throughout like my teens through adult years, like my dad flip a switch until he was like very much the opposite of that, and very much a feminist and just like completely shifts the way that he saw the world. And so that makes me know that it's possible to do that. So that's why it's like it's frustrating when people are so stuck in, their old ways where, it doesn't have to be that way. So, shout out to you and your family and, noticing those differences because it's possible to do so.
And I'm going to quickly add to that, just in case there's any students that are listening or anyone who's listening who has the passion and the drive to change the mindset. However, they're either in an organization or in a school or academia to where it is that type of style at this time, where it's like one dictatorship, one way, one grade, one syllabus, one mindset, one externship, or one, hospital corporate skilled nursing mindset or structure. What I would encourage is for you to advocate for yourself in that way and advocate for, of course, the potential future patients or family members that you will serve, because it's not just going to be one way, it's not just going to be one track. And with advocacy, it also comes with, again, going back to that mentorship, having other people or that's gone before you in these settings or has gone before you in these situations to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with XYZ. How do I handle it? So I do know there's some listeners who've never even been in a situation like this, but just knowing to advocate for yourself, knowing to advocate for just your ability to learn more things, right? As a speech pathologist, I feel like we always have opportunities to learn. We should always grow. So not just a CEU or a professional development hour, but coming to conferences and have it sitting in the room with those who don't often look like you to hear their stories and to see how you can support is also very, very, very vital.
Yes. Um, I will. I first met someone from Mbosla at an ASHA conference. Like I went by the Mbosla booth, and they were like, they invite the I don't know who the woman was, and she invited me to join Mbosla, and I looked at her and she's like, "Honey, it's okay to be white and
Yes.
join Mbosla," but I thought I couldn't
Right.
because I didn't know that I mean I didn't know that I could, and now I mean folks, there's a ton of caucuses that you can join for additional opportunities for growth, the Hispanic Caucus, the Asian Pacific Islander Caucus, the LGBTQI plus caucus, there's a disability caucus, there's now a Jewish caucus. I'm not Jewish, but I mean, you can join it and support. But there's all of these things that our profession does to support diversity, equity, and inclusion that if we just, like you said, sit in the uncomfort and then we can grow, because our patients aren't going to look like us all the time. And the caregivers aren't going to look like us. And I know English and I know bad English, which I'm quite fluent in. But I mean, that's, we have to be ready to learn. Um, Chelsie, you had proposed the question, and it's powerful and it builds right here the systemic challenges that we encounter. So I I will be honest. I mean, as a white female, I really haven't encountered too many challenges, with the exception of I did resign from a university because of significant sexism. However, nothing was in writing. So that made it difficult to pursue. But, I put forth my Title IX because if I don't, who will? Right? Um,
Yes. I just want to touch on that one time because
yeah.
something you said too, Chelsie, about advocating for yourself. And self advocacy is never just for you. Like, you're always, anytime you advocate for yourself, you're helping the people who are coming after you.
Yes.
Even if you didn't feel like you were successful, you planted a bug in somebody's ear, like, okay, I remember that happened last time and that wasn't okay for whatever the reason is. So
Yep.
don't ever feel like, oh, it's selfish for me to just speak up for this, or I don't want to make it about me. It's really not even about you. You have to think bigger than yourself, but you have to speak up for yourself.
Yes. Yes. And it is terrifying to do it. Like, can we acknowledge the fear in finding your muchness, to quote Alice in Wonderland, to do it? But that's where having a mentor or an ally to be part of that is huge. Yes. But it goes back to, I know that the color of my skin makes it easier for me. I am aware of that. So I don't know the challenges that my other colleagues could encounter because I haven't had that lived experience. So please, Chelsea, take it away, love.
Yeah, so systemic racism, sugar-coated racism is a real thing. And that just gives me the drive to do the work that I do in acute care. Um, Science says 85% of African Americans are 10 times more likely to have a stroke or cardiovascular disease. Why? Health disparities.
Yes.
Why? Health literacy. Why? Food desert. So it's a whole system
We
that kind
we food desert. Can I explain that?
yeah,
Because okay, so food deserts are zip codes where there's not enough food at a reasonable cost, and fresh fruits, vegetables, healthy food choices.
yes. In addition, food deserts often have the low end, the low grade, the uncomfortable, the cheaper, the great value brands. So there's a Family Dollar, there's a Dollar Tree, there's McDonald's. There's not a Whole Foods anywhere nearby, or there's not a good Walmart anywhere nearby, just based off of the zip code and the region of wherever it is. So food deserts are a real thing. So systemically, right, going back to history, African Americans have just been on the lower end. So for me, acute care is more than just going in and seeing if someone can swallow or not. For me, it's major part of my job is health literacy, having family and caregiver understanding the history behind why strokes are so prevalent, why you even had a stroke, how to prevent it next time, right? Stroke prevention. So systems are in place. Unfortunately, the system, like Jordyn mentioned earlier, is not built for us, right? People of color. So we have to find ways within this system to make it work for us and to be ahead of the game, always be one step better, always be educated, always be aware, always be advocates for ourselves. So having having that as my brand per se, walking in with scrubs, is just, it just drives me every day. And in that way, that's how systems are unfortunately against us. But that's why it's important for people of color to apply for, to be a speech pathologist, even though it's hard, because the more and more representation, the more that 3% of Black people increase in our number, the more the patients will feel so much relatability. They feel comfort. There's a thing called medical distrust, where patients don't are not accustomed to a non-Black person coming in the room or saying, hey, you can eat this diet or you can't eat this diet. But rather than if it was a different face or a different color, it was more accepted. So that's just kind of how systems in my world and my day-to-day kind of can make and break my mission, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I was just going to add for the pediatric side, there are a lot of systems, just like the school to confinement pipeline, or excessive policing of
So,
children.
going to jail, pediatric, like juvenile detention, is that what you mean?
So yes, to a certain, yes, that is exactly what it is. It's just such a larger scale. But the school to confinement pipeline is basically how um, students are going through schools and getting into more trouble than their non-Black peers and are specifically targeted, and how much more likely they are to go into confinement than their non-white peers for the same activities, for the same exact things. And it's a lot deeper than that. That's, again, could be another talk for the school to confinement pipeline on its own. But even so, that for the kids, and then we also have just like the underdiagnosis, misdiagnosis, misrepresentation, mislabeling of Black children, Black students. So again, we could go a lot deeper into that, but what I wanted to touch on was the system of actually becoming an SLP. Just like Chelsie was saying, there's a reason why only 3% of SLPs are Black, and only 3% are Asian, and less than 6% identify as Latino or Latina. There's a reason, because it's extremely hard. There are a lot of barriers that we face, mostly being money. Like it's very expensive, and it's so expensive. And historically, we have less money. Like, that is just the facts. Like, we make less. We've had less for centuries. And then when you think about what it takes to become an SLP in our program, we were working full time in like our externships and going to school full time. Like, we had 12, 14-hour days every single day. So a lot of us worked part-time jobs on top of that, but not enough to sustain ourselves most of the time. So that's like us as single women, a lot of us still having support from home. But imagine if you didn't have that and you were just expected to work 14-hour days with zero income. Imagine doing that as a young mother, as somebody who's taking care of their parents, as somebody who has to take care of their siblings, as somebody who is time impoverished. That's another term I want us to know, is time poverty. Time poverty is people who don't have the luxury of time. Like, I don't have the luxury of time in my day to go take a tennis class. I don't have the luxury of time in my day to go grocery shopping, because I have to pick up 4 kids, and I have to cook dinner, and I have to study, and I have to prepare them for school the next day, and I'm a single mom. Like, I don't have time. It's time poverty. So there's so many different barriers that just like make it extremely difficult to even think that becoming an SLP could be a reality, let alone taking the steps to do all the things that it takes to become one, then being able to succeed once you're in a program. Like, there's so many barriers. Even just taking the praxis, which at this point doesn't seem like that much money. It costs maybe like less than $200. But when I
That's a
was in
lot of
grad,
money.
and it's an extreme amount of money for sure. But when I was in grad school, I was like, literally so fearful of having to retake it, because I didn't know how I was going to do it. Like, I had no, if I did not pass the praxis the first time, which I passed by 1 point, if I didn't pass it the first time, I had no idea what I was going to do to pass it again. And I already had like a job offer that I would lose. Like, I had no idea like, so much was based off of this $200, which to some people, like that seems like a drop in the bucket, like that's nothing. But to me at the time, it was like that was my livelihood on the line. So there's just, again, so many barriers that if you don't have to think about, you're not going to think about them.
What kills me is the amount of meetings I have sat in wearing faculty hat where they're like, well, if they want accommodations because of insert XYZ, then they should have attended a part-time program because this is a full-time program and we expect ba 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 ba. Okay, we don't live in this world anymore. We don't. If you want, if faculty, if you're listening, and I know some of you are, and I'm hoping you are, but if we truly, truly, truly want to open our programs up like we say that we want to, then even our full time traditional programs are going to need to change. They're going to have to evolve. I am cautiously optimistic that they're in the process of removing the 375 hours and going to competency based education. I am, which is going to be one hot mess before we get to the other side of it. But I am cautiously optimistic that in that process, we'll be able to support students working, like purposefully support students working, because this.
Yeah, and Michelle, you touched on a really powerful term, which is traditional, right? So we have these traditional type of systemic academic settings for these non-traditional students, right? And so you can't expect to get a traditional matriculation of a program from a non-traditional student. So that's also kind of the caveat too. It's like, how do we start to change and be more culturally competent and inclusive to
Yes.
all type of students, right? Students who may have kids, students who also do work, or this is someone's second career path, or this is not someone who is living on campus, someone is a commuter. Just offering those multidisciplinary type of mindset and approaches to the traditional quote unquote student.
But that puts the onus back on our programs. Our
Exactly.
programs in and of themselves can be a system that needs, our
Exactly.
programs are a system that need to be changed.
Exactly. Yep. So our programs, and then we have our organization, right? Like, our entire on a national level, on the state level. There's so many different ways that we can kind of start to talk about these things. But again, if it's no conversation, there's no awareness, which there's no movement, which is there's no expansion. So that's why these conversations are so important. So we could just put it on the radar and say, oh, well, instead of me looking at her email that she didn't turn in her assignment on time as this, let me change the mindset and look beyond what my personal biases, and let me think about culturally, let me be more inclusive to what's going on in her situation.
Yeah, like what is their reality?
What is their reality?
They have a different reality than I do.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is how I screwed up so big. And Dr. Norman was like, Michelle. And I was like, what? And she was like, let me tell you something. Sit down. And
Right.
yes, ma'am. If Dr. Norman says to sit, you sit and you listen. Open mind, open heart, kind of sit and listen.
Yep.
But when she went through, I was like, they haven't gotten this done. And it was for clinicals. I was like, we have to get our TB test. We have to get our drug screen. We have to get like all of these things. And she was like, where are they getting the money for this?
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, well, and she was like, all right, no, really, where are they getting them? But it was the first big uncomfortable conversation where it does beg the question. There's ways to put all of those extra charges and embed it into the tuition so that FAFSA pays for it, and like the financial, so it's not something else, but that has to be discussed within the program of
Right.
where are we going to put these costs to like help the students. But again, oh, this is a really good episode. I am so fired up. Okay, all right. I had another barrier. y'all had lived experiences of your parents owning a home health company, your parents being educators. I had my youngest brother actually go through speech therapy, but it was a touch, a God moment, a glimmer, an opportunity, right? But I keep going back to, where are we as state associations taking our time to volunteer, to raise awareness systematically to parts of your state? Or I'm in Virginia. Virginia is a commonwealth, which is just foolhardy. We should be a state, whatever. But like, where are we reaching out so that programs and locations that have never heard about speech therapists can learn about it? Like, that has to be, that's to me a great time and energy for a state association and volunteers to do. But like, thoughts on how do we raise awareness about our profession?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I tell individual SLPs all the time because a lot of us are not time impoverished. A lot of us do have extra free time to volunteer and go to those career fairs, or if you have kids, go to their school and see if you can do a little talk about what speech pathology is. Because just like you're talking about, most of us did not know unless we had somebody specifically tell us what speech pathology was. I don't know a Black SLP who didn't have a family member or, like you said, a sibling who had speech therapy. That just, like, nobody's telling a little Black girl, like, hey, you should think about being a speech language pathologist one day. Like, nobody's telling us that. But I think if we had people in those places to volunteer their time, and that, are passionate about seeing a difference in the field, that could make a huge difference. If you're not aware of something, you can't become it. So it's a huge deal to do that.
Yeah, definitely volunteer outreach, spreading the word. For me, a really big thing is allied health outreach. So coordinating with PT, OT, with occupational therapy, physical therapy, with orthodontists, with the oral care part of it, dentist, just slapping a little speech therapist, card in front of the office on the platform, just so they can know that that exists in the pediatric population. Doctors, nursing, all of the things. If we can just educate and talk about what we do, then they would know who to call. For me, it's always, I'm always kind of coaching a position on what we actually do. We're not just a speech therapist. We work on swallowing, cognition, language, all the things. Just allied health outreach is also another big one. I think also just other avenues of speech therapy could be, the corporate side, talking with lawyers about what we do, talking with attorneys about what we do, IT, different aspects. I think our field is also growing in a lot of ways. So just talking to people who are non-speech, I think that's always the best way to include speech in the conversation.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think. Sorry, I just wanted to say I think social media has been really good for that too.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm an advocate. Social media can be very harmful for sure, but can also be so helpful in just raising awareness for things. And I think one of those things has been speech pathology. Like, I know people who have discovered the field from following somebody who was in the field. So I think just being willing to talk about what you do can make a huge difference. And just like you were saying, Chelsie, about like our field is relatively new and growing, and there's communication is involved in everything. So I think if somebody has an idea like, hey, I would love to get into this realm or this aspect of speech pathology, like finding a way to do that, talking to people who are in those fields, explaining what you can bring to what they already have going on and why you would be beneficial. There's so much room for us to grow and continue to get more respect than we already do, but just like get people to understand what we bring to the table.
Yeah, because with the conference and Black SLP Magic and SLP Social Scene, everybody's like, how do you get the word out? Like, how do y'all expand your audience every year? How do you guys sell out every year? Social media. That's literally all we do for marketing. The first year it was in DC, and so the fifth year is back in DC again. So it's kind of like our homecoming year, and I'm just super grateful for social media, especially in that year of 2020, because I feel like a lot of us were virtual, a lot of us were online, we were stuck at home for 6 to 8 months. So that really propelled our outreach and our audience online. So we always are advocates for social media. We're always posting something. We actually reply to a DM on Instagram faster than an email. So that's just kind of how we run the business. And it's been super, 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 super helpful.
Ah, I have 400 follow-up questions. Like, I'm so excited. It's just okay. One, I would love to have y'all come back and just do a whole episode on like racial justice and like how we like just that alone because this is a good conversation. But I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about what is the event going to be like this year? Who are the speakers? Who is lined up? I don't want to be dismissive of the other topic. I want to give that its own additional space.
No, yeah, this year's I'm super excited. My husband was just like, "Why are you so excited for this year?" I was just like, "I don't know. It's just year 5. We've made it. It's back in DC where it's like that's Jordyn and I's like second home, like DMV, like we love it." And so this year, every year we have a theme. So first year we just kind of newly introduced the idea of the conference and the reception and the social scene. Second year was like a gay Met Gala theme. Third year was an all white party. So fourth year was what, Jordyn? I forget. Um, Year 5 is now kind of like a 90s 2000s throwback jam, so everyone come in their like 90s gear and their hoops and hammer pants and stuff. And so the speakers for the conference this year are heavy hitters. We have Jermaine Graham, Mila Dwayne, Jordyn is actually speaking. We have Kimberly Ivory. We have Camila Mentel with Epic Technologies. If any speech therapist uses Epic, which is the aphasia app, she is the creator of that, and she's an African American woman, so she'll be speaking. We have Quintina Briscoe, who's a CEO of a large private practice. We have Joanne Kazoo, who's a pediatric SLP, really super big online. We have LaSharon Bankhead. We have Dr. Overton, who's also a CEO of Speech of Cake. We have Megan Berg, who's the founder of Therapy Insights, which is another medical SLP based informative subscription service. We have Dr. Valencia Perry, who is one of our professors, and she also spoke at the first one, and she's a researcher. She works at Howard University. And then we have Sydney Bazar, which is the listening SLP, big speaker. So we have, yeah, a pretty big lineup. Our beautiful co-host is Alexandria Winter Russell. She is a powerhouse online as well. So it's going to be super fun and super exciting. And I'll let Jordyn talk about the social scene.
Yes. Yeah, just to touch on the speakers, we have so many just like different expertise. Like we have deaf and hard of hearing, we have aphasia, we have early intervention and caregiver coaching. We have, again, the people who created these amazing like apps. So just so much expertise in one room, which is going to be great. Then, so the SLP social scene I like to say it's a place for the professionals to get unprofessional. And
Literally.
I think literally, I just like because my whole identity is just, like bring everything that you are to the table. I want you to bring your full self. I want you to wear what makes you feel good. I want you to dance. I want you to get loose. You could have a few drinks, whatever you're into. And just like, I feel like that's where the magic happens of like locking in those relationships that you made at the start at the conference where you were, in more of a business attire and you were talking about your passions and what you see for yourself in the future and feeling inspired from these panelists. And then we have a few hours break in between. And then we have the social scene where people come ready to have a good time. So that is something that I love. I think it's an amazing day with these like two powerhouse events where you're networking like you've never networked before, and you're experiencing a conference that's unlike any other conference you've ever been to, where it feels like you've known these people and you're just meeting them for the first time, but like that this is a relationship that you're going to be able to keep. And then again, you go have fun with them later that night. So you're really locked in after that. And I think there's just one of a kind. I'm very proud of what we offer to people, and we get such good feedback every year, and we get so many people that return every year, which I feel like is the biggest compliment. So yeah, I think it's great. I recommend it to everybody. Everybody is welcome. We have SLPs, audiologists, OTs, PTs who come. People bring their parents. People bring their partners. Like it's such a great place for everybody to be, for sure.
Bonus too, there's also vendor booths, so you can go around and shop SLP gear and non-SLP things. So we have 10 amazing vendors, so they can also have this opportunity to shop in between sessions and kind of buy stuff and support minority-owned businesses as well.
Yeah, and we provide food and drinks for all day,
All day.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You
So,
get a
and the
merch.
food is good every time.
Oh yeah, you get a tote bag, you get some gear, you get merch, you get all the things. So it's a lot. It's jam packed.
Um, how many tickets are y'all like? Do y'all have budgeted?
So this year we have a max of under 200. So right now we are creeping along slowly. I looked over today and we're almost there. So we encourage people, like for the conference, especially because it's a ticketed and a numbered event with specific totes. We ask, to get them on time so you're not, left out and have FOMO. But the social scene is often, we can have some room to party at the end if you want to kind of slide in after Asha last minute. So yes.
I'm just thinking the budgeting and the logistics of getting all of those things to Asha, like that is so very much to go from here to there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Chelsea missed her calling as a like program manager, specialist, event organizer. Like she missed her calling for sure.
Yeah, I've troubleshooted over the 5 years, but I think I got it down packed
Okay,
now.
you can do that and be the SLP, because the ASHA CEO is a speech pathologist, but then she also has her CAE, whatever the Certified Executive Association Manager, or I'm screwing this up royally. But that, so yes, this could be your calling, and then you could become a future CEO of ASHA.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You never know. You never know.
Never know. I mean, yeah, I would not want that stress level.
Yeah, that's okay. You never know. Hey, maybe I want to come in there and maybe bring Black SOP magic on a grander scale. So we'll see.
Okay. So if folks are listening, I have a couple of things. One, give them a word of wisdom. Give them hope for overcoming the barriers. Two, how can they reach you if they have follow-up questions? How do they follow you? And then three, if they want to make a donation or something in honor of, you pouring into their hearts, where would you recommend they give their love money to? That's what my grandma called it. Depending on her mood, it was love money if you had it left over, or it was her mad money. And her mad money she saved for thrift stores and junk shops. So like I know all of them in the mountains.
Yeah, so I'll first start off with where we can, anyone listening here can kind of donate. So we do have a Ko-fi account where you can donate as little as you want or as much as you want. Also, in donations, we accept sponsorships, so we have plenty room for anyone who's interested to just sponsor and have your brand exposed and have your brand highlighted at the event in both the flyer on our page and on our website. Or another way you can donate is just to simply buy a ticket, because of course we are a self-funded company. Jordyn and I do everything on our own every year. We are so super grateful for all the sponsorships we've gotten, but majority of it comes from our own hardworking money. So if you want to just buy a ticket to also support us, you can do that as well. Just put donation as the first and last name, and we'll know who to acknowledge if you want to be acknowledged, or you can put your first and last name with donation on the end. And as far as overcoming the barriers and just rolling with the punches of life. I will say, mistakes are proof of learning. So even if you do make a mistake or done something that you shouldn't, or said something to someone you shouldn't have, or didn't speak up and advocate in a moment that you should have, just know that mistakes are proof of learning, and you can always use that opportunity to grow and learn. Feel free to always talk and bring things to light rather than avoiding. And just always, be supportive, be kind, and be nice, even when the majority is not being nice. So that's what I have. You can follow me at Esek Health on my SLP Instagram. That's ESEK Health, as in like healthy, but just health. And Black SLP Magic is at Black SLP Magic, and you can visit us online at blackslpmagic.org. That's all I got.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'll start with some inspiration. One thing for me, going back to what Chelsie said about mistakes, if you take an L, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. It's something that you learn from, something that you go back and, pick and choose. Okay, what did I do right that I want to bring to my next journey, and what do I want to leave behind? So definitely never a loss. You just learn from it. My next one was closed mouths don't get fed. So if you want something, ask for it. If you want something to be like to exist, create it, and advocate for yourself. And remember that self-advocacy is really helping the person that comes after you. So keep that in mind. And again, my regular is sit with the discomfort. There is no growth in comfort. Remember that. Sit with it. Think about why you're uncomfortable. Identify that and grow from there. Where you can find me, Instagram, JRC_the SLP. I post a lot of relevant things related to DEI, related to the field in general, related to what's happening in the world, especially related to like education and healthcare and race and culture. A lot of intersections. And I also created the Culturally Responsive Clinician Handbook. So that's something that you can purchase physically or digitally. I've gotten great feedback. It is very self-reflective, which is where I feel like you grow the most. And it's literally a handbook that you can use with you in your practice, like starting the day you download it or receive it in the mail. So definitely recommend. And hopefully I get to see you all at either ASHA, I'll be there with the booth, or at Black SLP Magic Conference or at SLP Social Scene. And when I see you, I hope that you are bringing your entire self to the table, because I want to meet every part of you and not just your representative, like the real you. So hopefully I get to meet you soon.
The real you. Yeah.
The real me is really socially awkward, and I forget not everybody wants hugs, but I'm a hugger. So there's
I
that.
definitely get that.
Yes, yes. Folks, take a peek. First Bite Podcast on Instagram. I answer when I get to it, but I also work full time in 3 other hats, and so yay! Ladies, this has been an absolute joy. Like, truly, thank you so much for sharing your time and talents. Well, with a very full heart, thank you so much for coming on. We are definitely going to have to come back for a part 2.
For sure.
Yes.
Agreed.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, ladies.